Today, we're honored to have a couple join us to talk to us about education. They are a husband and wife team, Robbie and Rachel England. Rachel attended public school in upstate New York, graduating from Canandaigua Academy in 1990, and then attending God's Bible School and College for 2 years. She transferred to Roberts Wesleyan College and graduated with a BS in elementary education and high school English in 1994. She attended the College of William and Mary, where she graduated in 1996 with her master's in special education. Rachel taught in a private school for 2 years and public school for over 5 years before having her first child. Then she began her home music studio, where she has taught piano and cello for the last 18 years. She served on the Northern Lebanon School Board for 8 years and now substitute teaches in the district. Rachel is also passionate about teaching a spiritual training class at church and enjoys serving on the Northern Lebanon Marching Band Parents Committee as vice president and runs the family Airbnb in their renovated 1800s barn. Robbie attended Christian schools throughout his elementary years and graduated from God's Bible School in 1988 with a high school diploma, and then from God's Bible College in 1993 with a BA in social sciences. He took pre-med studies at the University of Cincinnati and graduated from Trevecca Nazarene University with a BS in physician assistant studies in 1998. He has practiced medicine in a busy rural family practice in Pennsylvania for over 22 years. Robbie has served in a number of leadership roles, including as a borough council member and planning commissioner in Jonestown, Pennsylvania, and as a member of his church board. He has been on the God's Bible School and College Board of Trustees since 2000, serving as the board chair for the past 5 years. He recently ran for a school director position in the Northern Lebanon School District and won the primary election and looks forward to being elected in November and joining his board in December of this year. Together, Robbie and Rachel co-lead Church Family Connections, a committee at their church that offers fellowship and training opportunities for the church family, and they enjoy leading their Home Builders Marriage Bible Study, which they have led for the last 22 years. However, out of all of their responsibilities, their greatest passion is leading the England family team. All right, Robbie and Rachel, so good to have you with us today. And we're excited to talk about your experience in education and to pick your brains a little bit about, particularly in the role of leadership, as you both have those roles and have had those roles. So here's a question to both of you. Tell us more about your community there in Pennsylvania. Maybe it's population, is it urban, rural, any particular demographics you want, because that often, helps to kind of set the stage for, what you're working with and gives a better understanding for those who are listening.
Well, our community is a rural agricultural community, pretty small, but small as far as people, but large. Our district spans 144 square miles. And serves around 2,500 students. So it's the community itself feels like small and very rural, but the district is pretty large as far as the land space.
Great. So let's talk about education itself. How would you define education?
I think education is the process by which a culture is shaped. And that happens in the classroom, but largely I think that happens at home. Mm-hmm. And I think that we have, in many ways as a nation, we've kind of backed away from the home importance and put a lot of that on the institution of schooling. Mm-hmm. And as you well know, there are so many different ways that that's done through charter schools, through public schools, through private schools, Christian schools. But many times it's really easy, I think, for parents to say, I paid for my child's Christian education. They need to raise my child.
Yeah.
So we feel like, when people ask us, do you homeschool? We say, absolutely. And we send our kids to a public school for additional training. Because I do feel like every one of us as parents needs to take the responsibility seriously, that it's our responsibility under God to train our children and to make sure that we're having conversations on a regular basis. What is God's perspective? How can we use this as an opportunity to learn and grow? So I think education as a whole has gotten way off of those rails. And that's why these conversations are so important, to help us refocus and get back on track.
Yeah, what a great answer. Now, as we think about, education and, what is it really and what is its impact? So how would you define education itself? It means a lot of different things, but if you could just narrow it down, how would you define that specifically? And how important is that overall to our community and to our country?
From my perspective, education is essentially transferring information to the next generation. So it's teaching someone the values that are important to build your life on. And I think it's vitally important that we are significantly engaged in that process, because if we don't, there'll be a vacuum and someone else will be shaping those values and those influences that our children are embracing and then shaping their lives, and then their children, it's just a cascading effect. And so if we don't get it right at the fountainhead, the whole stream is poisoned. And I think we are bearing the fruit of much of people with values and with an appropriate perspective shaping that influence. I think we've missed many opportunities. So I'm grateful for what you're doing to help turn that around.
Well, thank you. So I think, I think it's a great answer. I would also add maybe just a little to that, and you tell me if you think I'm on track or not. So to me, education is really, it's about a mentoring of the next generation to not only help them discover who they are, what their gifts, what their talents, what their opportunities are, but to equip them for life and for every dynamic, whether it's a job skill, particular interests and aptitudes, how to fit into society in a way that is meaningful and productive. It's about helping them reach their full potential.
Right. I think that's right on track.
Mm-hmm. And I really think, I was talking to a pastor friend of mine recently. I think that often we think these are the impactful moments of our lives. These are the moments that really matter. I need to be very careful how I say things from a stage to make sure that it's appropriate, because that's going to impact people. And I really think in reality, those are probably not the moments that impact others the most. Mm-hmm. I think the education that you're talking about, the life mentoring mm-hmm. is really probably moments we don't even realize how we respond to an upset neighbor. Our kids are watching that. And I think our role in that process is extremely important. A text to someone who's having a bad day may be way more impactful than any sermon they'll ever hear. So I think education is happening, whether we're aware of it or not. But True. I think it is a full life, a full orbed perspective.
Mm.